Hello, everyone. This is Leanne from Of Love and Ship Lab and the founder of Sublimation Graphics and Tutorials on YouTube and Facebook. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss out on any of our tutorials. Tonight's edition of 20-Minute Sublimation Design is how to make a mummy alphabet. We're just going to do one letter, but you can repeat this process for the entire alphabet as well as use the same technique to create other types of characters for fun fonts perfect for the Halloween season. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to remove this off of my document and we will go ahead and start new. We will start by opening up a new document. We'll come to File, New, and we're going to use our standard clip art size, which is 3600 pixels by 3600 pixels at 300 dpi. This is great if you want to have larger size letters that you can use as focal points on something like a garden flag or a door hanger or a doormat even, or even if you wanted it to be a standalone monogram on a shirt. If you want to just offer this as a clip art that's just smaller, then you could do more like 1200 pixels by 1200 pixels. Totally up to you. I always prefer to go a little larger because you could always size down, but you can't size up. We want our color format to be set to RGB/8 and our color profile to be sRGB IEC 61966-2.1. Now this is the most current color profile at the time I'm recording this video. However, if you are using a Mac, many Mac users do better with the Adobe RGB 1998. That's the previous profile. So if you're using a Mac, you may want to choose that option. If you are noticing some discrepancies on printing. Keep in mind that your color profile in your document setup panel, where we currently are, has absolutely nothing to do with your sublimation printer profile, the printer settings, or any of that. That is all completely separate and not relevant to what we're working on today. We want to have our transparent background selected, and I want this to be a document, not an artboard, so make sure that Create Artboard is deselected. When you have all of your settings ready, you can click Create. Now I'm working on a Windows PC today, so if you're using the Mac, your interface may look a little bit different. I know that Mac is not able to dock toolbars over here like this one is, so yours may just be floating. If you don't see certain panels, you can always just come to View, Studio, and choose Reset Studio to go back to the default that the program comes in when you first install it. And of course, all of your panels do show here. So if you're looking for one that you don't see, like your layers panel, just make sure there's a check mark next to it and it should appear. We are going to start first with a letter, whichever letter we want to work with today. You're going to come down to where you see the A, or you may see a square with a T inside, and we're going to choose the artistic text tool. So if you don't see the artistic text tool, just click on that little white corner and it will become available for you. Click and drag on your document just to start a text box, and then we'll select our font. For this particular project, a chunkier, playful font is definitely the way to go. There are tons of great ones on the market. My favorite resource for fonts is Creative Fabrica, which you can sign up through our special link for just $1. And then I believe it's $19.99 a month after that, but you will have unlimited access to all of the different resources that are there, which includes fonts, digital papers, clip art elements, cut files, embroidering files, and so much more. Be sure to check that for that link and other links for things that we use in today's video in the video description. I'm using a font called Clarine. This one had just the right feel for this project, so that's the one I opted to go for. I'm going to enter in B, just a nice big B to work. And I like to have everything centered on the page. So I will just hold my cursor and click and drag that layer until I see the red and green access line. That lets me know I'm in the middle. Those lines only appear when you are holding your cursor down on your layer and have your layer exactly where it belongs. You activate these by having this magnet icon selected in the top of the top of your interface. You can also just come to where you see the align options, the alignment, and choose align center, align middle, and it will align as well. Mine was of course already aligned, so we are good to go. We are going to need 2 layers of our letter. So we're going to come over to our layers panel. We are going to right click on it and choose duplicate, or you can do Control or Command J. This one at the top, click on where it says B, and we're going to give it a name. This one is going to be our dashed layer. And this next one below it is going to be our main layer. Now for your dash layer for right now, you just want to deselect that. We're going to focus on the main layer first. The first thing that we need to do is convert this to curves. So if you right click on that on your document space and choose convert to curves, it will do that. You'll notice it will say curves in parentheses and no longer the letter B. You're next going to come to where you see this contour tool that looks like a circle with a hole in the middle. You are going to select that. You want to make sure you have your layer selected when you click it, and then you're just going to drag, and we're going to beef it up a little bit. It doesn't need to get too thick, but you want it to be enough thick. So you'll notice that you can see the subtle boundary lines of the original letter. See it? You want it to be just a little thicker past that. Once you're satisfied with your thickness, and again, all that is just you click and drag. To do that, this only works on curve layers. So once you have done that, you're going to select Bake Appearance. And you'll notice that the boundaries go to the outside. That's exactly what we want. And we're going to make this one white. Now, this is going to be a little hard to see for just a minute, but we also want to add a black stroke to this. So over in your color panel, I already selected the white fill for my filled circle, but now we want to select that open circle, and I'm going to set it to black. And then I'm going to come down to the stroke panel, which your stroke panel may be over to the side here. I'm going to select the little paintbrush for textured line style. I'm going to increase that width a little bit, and I'm going to come to brushes, and I'm going to choose the pens category. This is one that comes built in. And I really like this textured pen 02. I think, in fact, it does have a nice texture that works well with our mummy letter look that we are working on today. Now let's grab that dashed layer. We're going to select the little box next to it and just check mark it. We're going to come to our color panel, and we want no fill, but we want to have a stroke. So we want this open circle filled. Because there's already a fill in this filled circle, all we have to do is just hit that little 2-sided arrow line, and you can see the faint stroke. We can add a little bit of thickness to it. We want this stroke to look like stitching. So we're going to come to where you see this dashed line style in your stroke panel. Click on that, and then come down to where it says dash at the bottom, and you're going to enter 3 in the first box and 2 in the second box. And that will give you this nice dash effect, and you can sort of play around with the size using that width slider until you are happy with it. So I like visually how that looks, so that is going to be set. Now, my main layer is where we're going to be putting in just some lines to sort of make this look like a mummy, and we'll add some eyes, and then we'll add some accent lines. Pretty easy project. But one thing I'm thinking is that the white by itself is kind of blasé. So I found some mummy texture digital papers on Creative Fabrica. We are going to come to File and then Place, and I want this one that doesn't have a bunch of gaps. Like the gap ones are fine, but this solid one is the one that's going to give us the best overall look. So I'm going to select that one and click open. Next, when you see the downward arrow with a little puddle, you want to click and drag to size it across your entire letter. And then we're going to clip it inside of that main layer. So you want to click and hold on the icon of your mummy wrap layer, and then drag it down so that your cursor is touching the name of this main layer. And you see that 3/4 length rectangle release, and you'll see that it is clipped inside. Now, this texture is a bit stronger than I want it to be, so we're going to lower the opacity, but first I'm just going to kind of rotate it. I don't want it to look straight across. I want it to sort of be at an angle. So then we'll come up to where you see opacity, still within the layers panel, and with that mummy wrap layer selected, we'll click the drop down, and I'm going to lower this to about 50%. Somewhere between 50 and 60 is a good range, I think. It's going to give us just enough texture to bring our mummy font to life without being too much. Now within that main layer, we're going to want to add some lines that are basically like our, to give us the look of our different mummy wrap segments. So what I want to do is select at the bottom where you see this folded down page icon and choose Add Layer. And we're going to click and drag to bring this layer into our main layer. So same thing as that we did before, we just click and dragged it in. It should look like it is right in line with the mummy wrap. That's how you know it's clipped inside. Next, we will select our pen tool. And you're going to select this one that has 2 dots with 1 line in the middle. That is called line mode. We are going to be using a textured line style, but we will add that afterwards. It'll just make it a little bit easier. Now this is easy. All you're going to do is do a start click and an end click and make a bunch of lines across your letter. So we want to make sure that we're over to the edge so we get the full effect for the mummy, just like that. And every time you do 2 clicks, the third click is going to start a new line. So that's the benefit of using the line mode option. So there's no like right or wrong way here. You're just going to bring them across. Make sure that you're giving the letter all the mummy vibes. And maybe I'll go from here to here as well. Yeah, I think that's fine. You don't really need a lot. You want just enough to, give it this effect. So now they should all be inside of this layer option. And when you select that, we can make adjustments to everything that's in there. So we'll select that group. We're going to make sure everything's set to black. So we have our open circle set to black because this is our stroke. We're going to choose our textured line style, which is the paintbrush in our stroke panel. We're going to come to our brushes panel. I'm going to choose that textured pen 02 again. And then if we need to add a little bit more weight, we can just do that using this width option. Doesn't need to be a lot. I'm doing about 9 point. That seems to be a good weight to give me the whole look that I'm going for here. So all of that is within this layer, and you can actually click on that layer and you can just rename it Mummy Lines so that your layers panel is easy to navigate. And also in case you want to just copy and paste that into other layers and work with it from there. If you want to adjust any of your lines, you can simply open that up, select the group, and you can adjust it. Maybe you want to rotate it a little bit. Maybe you want to make it longer. You can do all of those things very easily and quickly right within there. Okay, the next thing that we need is to add like a rectangle inside that's a little bit curved, so it sort of looks like the eye area peeking out from the mummy wrap. We're going to do that with our rectangle tool. So make sure that you have nothing selected in your layers panel, and you are going to come over to your tools panel, select the rectangle tool. Over on our color panel, we want the stroke to have no fill, so have that open circle on top, click the little circle with the white or the red line through it, click on the filled circle, and then drag that to black. You're just going to click and drag across your letter to about the size that you would like your mummy eyes to be, or your mummy eye space. Now, mine automatically clipped into my mummy lines, which is not what I want. So I can see that over here in my layers panel. I'm just going to click and drag that out. I do want it to be clipped inside of my main layer. So if yours is up at the top here like this, just go ahead and click and drag so that it is within that section in your layers panel as well. Next, we're going to select this option that says Convert to Curves, which will be visible when you have that rectangle selected. So choose Convert to Curves. And then we're going to come over to the Node tool, which is this one that sort of looks like a cursor. And we're going to just arc this up a little bit and arc it down as well. And you can kind of bring in these other ends if you want. All you do is grab those little nodes on either end, the little squares that you see, and just sort of drag them. And you can adjust them, the little handlebars as well. So you can pull on the line, adjust the handlebars, whatever works for you, until you get the look that you think sort of looks like where the eyes would peep out of the mummy wrap. And you can then just click on that and adjust it if you want. Maybe you want it up a little bit higher, maybe you want it over. You can make any of those adjustments very easily by selecting that layer. This is going to be our eye space, so I'm going to click and rename that very quickly. Now to make our eyes is even easier, we're going to use our segment tool. So over where you see your shapes, your last one might be a star or a heart or a triangle. Just click on that little white corner and select Segment Tool. You're going to just click and drag on your document space. Remember that if you don't see it over here when you click and drag, check your layers panel to make sure you didn't put it someplace on accident and drag it out of there so it's on top. Just size it till about what you want. It's going to be flipped in the other direction, so we're going to choose Flip Vertical. And I'm going to do my base layer yellow. So I'm going to come to my color panel. I'm going to choose sort of a, not a bright yellow, kind of a goldenish yellow. I like that one. And now we're going to create 2 more segments to just fill out the rest of the eye. So I'm going to right click and duplicate that segment. And we can't see that there's 2 because they're over top of each other. That's okay. Just trust the process. With that second segment, I'm going to make it orange. And I'm going to come down here to my transform panel, make sure that my figure 8 has the little arms hanging off of it, click on the width, and I'm going to enter about half of the size that it currently is. Remember, the size that it's at will be dependent on how you clicked and dragged. So I'm going to just resize it manually till I'm happy with the overall visual of it. That looks great. I'm thrilled. Now I'm going to right click and duplicate, or Control or Command J, that orange piece, and this one is going to be black, and repeat the same process. We can do it a little bit smaller down in our transform panel and then move it into place and just resize it as we would like to give us a total eye look. Very simple, right? You want to make sure that all 3 segments are on top of each other in order. The black is going to be the foremost one, or whatever one's on top will be the foremost one, and whatever one's below will be the one that is behind the other layers. I'm going to select all 3 of those, and I'm going to right click and group. I'm then going to bring it over into my black space and just resize it till it looks about right, kind of stretch it out if I want, whatever you want to do to sort of manipulate it. If you notice that you have little lines, see, I can see that orange line right there, just go ahead and select your other layer, like the black one, and move it on up. Problem solved, nice and easy. And once you're happy with your eye, right click and duplicate that, or Control or Command J, and move it into the other place. So now we have our eyes ready to go, and we can move those into our main layer just to make everything nice and easy. So we will select both of those and just drag them into the main layer above the layer that says eye space. So everything's in that main layer now. Now, the last thing that we want to do to sort of fill this out is just add in some little accent lines and doodles that will make our whole letter sort of come together and complete the aesthetic. You can also bring in that dashed layer if you would like into your main layer. Just make sure it is on top of all of the other layers so that it does line up accordingly to everything that we've got going on our screen. You can actually make sure it's below your eyes. So I'm going to move it below my eye space. That way the stitching isn't coming through the eye. We want it to just be coming through the base layer itself and our mummy paper. So we're going to just add a couple of like random squiggle lines and like outline lines that are going to give this font that doodle effect and bring it all together. Once again, we will select that Add Layer button at the bottom of our Layers panel so we can keep everything in. We're going to select our pen tool. We can start with line mode all we're going to do is just add some stray lines that are just offset of the letter. So you could do a little curve here. You could do a curve that indents and pops out here. You could do down and around the corner here or down here. You could just do a straight line, totally whatever works for you. So I'm going to do just a straight line down like this one. And then I'm going to come over and maybe do a curved one. So I'm going to do my start and end point. You'll see it's a diagonal. And then select that node tool, the one that looks like a little mouse cursor, and just sort of drag this out a little bit. So I've adjusted the line. My lines don't have any weight, so if you have a hard time seeing them without the weight, just come to the open circle, add a color, and then add a little bit of this width to it to give you the look you're going for. Now you can click over to your move tool and you can sort of adjust it. Like I want to move that one in a little bit. And I also want this to keep using that same textured line style that I used on my other lines that I created. So I will select textured line style in the stroke panel, come to brushes, choose that textured pen 02, adjust the stroke weight a little bit. Same thing on the other one. And that one's already black. Perfect. Adjust that weight a little bit. And the last thing I want to do is just maybe add like some little zigzags or hash marks. That kind of completes the whole doodle look. So with that layer 1 currently selected, I'm going to come back to my pen tool. And this time I want to choose pen mode. And I'm really just going to come along the edges here and do little clicks back and forth that sort of look like a zigzag. And once I have them set, same thing, textured line style, add a little bit of weight if necessary. And you can just copy and paste these and move them into different spots of your letter. You can rotate it. So I will right click and duplicate that one and then bring it over here. Maybe just flip it in the other direction a little bit. And boom, you have created a mummy layer, a mummy letter. And you can go ahead and repeat this for your entire alphabet. Now, I do recommend making sure everything is grouped together. So these accent layers, they need to be their own separate group. So we can just call them accent layers, accent pieces. And then we'll select both of those. We'll right click and group them together. And then when you want to export just the letter without all of this empty space around, you will go to File, Export, and choose PNG and choose selection only. Don't choose selection area because that'll export the checkered background. Just choose selection only and click export. And of course, it'll give you the option to save. And you can continue on and create your entire alphabet following the same process. You can copy and paste your internal layers over into other letters to make it nice and quick and easy. And then all you have to do is just sort of tweak the placement of the eyes or the lines to get each letter just right the way you would like and create an entire alphabet. This is such a fun project, and it's one of the many things that you can do in Affinity Designer. If you are interested in learning absolutely everything there is to know about this software, then be sure to check out the Affinity Designer Digital Graphic Design Masterclass for Sublimation. This is a 100-hour in-depth video course perfect for beginners. Will teach you everything there is to know about the software and the design process together so that you can tackle any challenge you have in your mind. It includes one-on-one email support and chances to win prizes, and you can use the code SUBTHAT to save $30. If you give this project a try, be sure to share it in SubThat because we would love to see it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and have a great rest of your day.